One of the things I want to talk about just for fun is kind of the state of Marvel Champions and what it's in right now. Because honestly, right now to me, it's in a really healthy spot. We have like high 40s, low 50s. I always lose count of how many heroes we have in Marvel Champions, but it's a lot. It's a lot. And it wasn't always like this. And I think a lot of people either weren't there for the beginning and don't fully know what it was like, or maybe they forget it a little bit. And the reason I bring this up is because whether it's me or somebody else that's doing reviews of newer heroes, maybe you love or maybe you don't, it doesn't really matter. People will get kind of passionate about it if you don't agree with them 100%. And I kind of get why, right? There's certain heroes that I really like personally that if people didn't like I wouldn't take offense personally to it, but I'd be like, well, maybe why don't they see it like my way, right? Like if maybe if I just convince them harder, they would understand it. When that's probably not the case. Most people's opinions on these things are generally speaking grounded and well founded. Generally speaking, not always. But yeah, so I wanted to talk a bit about this because we are going to have Magneto coming out soon, who excuse me, I think is going to be not controversial, but there's going to be a lot of debate about Magneto. I feel like the general idea is that he's going to be one way or the other, right? Like either people are going to love him or people are going to hate him. And I think that's generally true. Like I think most people are just, it's going to be like a love hate relationship with him. Reason being is because I personally, and I have no evidence to this whatsoever, it's just me speculating. I think he's going to be really, really strong and really, really straightforward. And the magnet counter thing he has going on isn't going to be too interesting. But a lot of people like Magneto, the character. And Nightcrawler, I think, personally, was a huge success. I think Nightcrawler is really interesting as a hero. So I think we're, especially to close out the X Men wave, like this X Men wave was like a long wave, right? Like 3 cycles of this lasting, what, 2 years or whatever. Like it was a lot for the community to kind of go through and to wrap it all up. But I don't mean that like in a negative way. I just mean like we've just had this massive wave. It brought a ton of new people into the game. I recently posted on Reddit about this. I posted a question of asking people when did they get into the board game, and like the majority of people were either, or the plurality, I guess maybe, was either the X-Men wave or the core box, right? People came in the middle, obviously, but those were the two biggest. So I think a lot of people came in during the X-Men wave, and so there's a lot of passion behind it. I think there's a lot of X-Men fans behind it. So anyway, with all that being said, I want to talk a bit about the state of the game, and I think it's in a really healthy spot. I think it's in a really good spot. And I think it's always a friendly reminder to kind of put this back out there. So, for example, when we first started, obviously we just had the core box. You all know who the heroes are and whatever. But that first cycle, we had a lot of great heroes. So, or well, actually great packs in general. So we had the Green Goblin pack, still probably one of the greatest scenario packs that's out there that you could possibly get. We had the Captain America hero come out. Then we had Miss Marvel, who some people consider was a miss. Personally, because she's so event heavy, I feel like you couldn't fully realize her until the more events came out, and then she got stronger and more interesting and more dynamic. Then Wrecking Crew came out, which again I know people don't like because it's weak, it's not as strong of a scenario pack, but it still has its place in my opinion. Like every now and again, maybe twice, 3 times a year, I like to do the scenario pack. I think it's fun. I think it's fine for solo play, especially. And then we had Thor, who Thor's a little pigeonholed, but he's still a really fun hero to play, really strong. Black Widow was one of those heroes that came out and just blew our minds with the mechanics and how she worked with prep cards. It was a great design. Doctor Strange is a favorite of among a lot of people. The Invocation deck was a newer thing that was introduced. A lot of people wanted that hero, very strong hero, and same with Hulk. A lot of people wanted Hulk, but people were disappointed by Hulk a bit because he wasn't as strong as people wanted, especially after just getting Doctor Strange, right? And Doctor Strange was a very strong hero. People felt Hulk should be maybe not on the same level, but like close, right? And it wasn't quite. So there was very little disappointment that wave. Then we had Rise of Red Skull, which the box is a phenomenal box. The biggest complaint about this box by the original community was that the box was too easy, right? And this would lead into possibly the designers making um, the Guardians Most Wanted or Galaxy's Most Wanted box a bit harder, and we'll get into that in a second. But it was still a really good box. Hawkeye, I'm not the biggest fan of, but I know he's a fan favorite. Spider Woman is phenomenal. I like a lot of the villains in the Rise of Red Skull box. I still think Zola and Red Skull are top tier villains overall. So it's really good. Kang, while I don't like it, it is more of a multiplayer scenario and people love it, and I get why. Really, really interesting way of doing things. Ant-Man and Wasp, two heroes with these, these flip cards, right, that are folding in half. Really cool design space. Really cool what they did there. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch were both heroes that came out and just absolutely phenomenal. Both like we hadn't really seen anything quite like it. It was amazing. And it felt like the game, especially at this point, was just firing. Like they could not miss at this point. And here's the thing, at that point in the game, we had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 heroes, which is a good amount of heroes, right? If you didn't like some of them, it's okay. You still had a decent amount, but there was 17 heroes roughly at that point. Then I remember to this day, it was during the pandemic, I believe, but it was when they were doing Gen Con mostly online. So I think that was during the pandemic. Was Galaxy's Most Wanted was announced, and the hype for this was off the charts. Right, the hype was off the charts, and Groot and Rocket were going to come to a box. Guardians were really popular, all this fun stuff, and then it actually gets released. And we've talked enough about the encounter sets from there that they're really rough. They're not very good. They have their issues, right? And a lot of people are upset with that because we only had at this point, what is that, 8 villains and a couple scenario packs. So I mean, we had some options, but not a ton. People were really starting to solve Green Goblin's risky business at that point, making it easier. Kang was kind of, if you're a solo player, and most people were during the pandemic, wasn't as enjoyable. Yada yada yada. So Rocket and Groot come out, and it was met with a ton of disappointment. And here's the thing, a lot of people still, I think, consider Rocket and Groot not good. And I don't think that's the right way to look at it. I think they're actually really good, but you need a bunch of Guardian cards that came out later that wave to really fill them out. To me, Rocket and Groot felt like the first time as heroes that their deck wasn't enough, right? A lot of the heroes before this, it felt like their 15 cards that they came with were really strong and just leaned into those cards. Rocket and Groot obviously still have those cards, but there are a lot of supports or upgrades in the basic card set that kind of really push the Guardians wave a bit further. And until we would get Star-Lord and Gamora and Drax and Venom, we never really quite felt that. So huge disappointment in the beginning. Then you get Star-Lord, right? With his whole special ability where you have to take a face down boost card. And people were just doing that every single round, basically making the game really hard because they're trying to make everything cheaper. And it was really rough. And people, not that they weren't playing him right, but it was just the most efficient way to play him. And we learned that later on. Gamora was better. People liked it. And Drax was better. And Venom was better. But it felt like after those first 3 heroes, everyone just kind of not done with Galaxy's Most Wanted, but just frustrated with Galaxy's Most Wanted. They were realizing how rough the expansion box was in general. And then we had the Mad Titan Shadow, which for a lot of people was a hit and a lot of people was a miss. People hated or loved Hela. Hela gets kind of stale. I loved Hela when she first came out. It's kind of stale. Some people like Loki, some don't. Thanos I still think is well done. Tower Defense was interesting. All that stuff is fine. But the heroes that wave were really weird, right? Adam Warlock was cool on paper. I don't think people play him as much. It's not that he's a bad hero, but it's a lot of deck building. And for people that enjoy that aspect of the game, I think Adam Warlock makes a lot of sense. But there's a lot of people that don't want to get that deep into deck building, so they don't enjoy him as much. Spectrum is fine. A lot of people enjoy Spectrum just all right. Nebula was this weird continuation of the Guardians stuff, so it felt weird that was being placed there. And Nebula is a really rough solo hero to kind of wrap your head around. She is much better in multiplayer, and her mechanics I think are really cool, but she is kind of rough to play. So that deterred a lot of people. War Machine was a hero that people wanted from the Avengers group, which was kind of met well, kind of not. It was really weird. The Hood expansion scenario pack, people were okay, this is a random one, but all these mod sets are kind of cool, but now it's Standard 2 came out, so people were hyped for that, and then, oh wait, Standard 2 is really hard. And so people had a hard time kind of balancing that out. And then Valkyrie came out, where a lot of people thought for some strange reason that Valkyrie wasn't very good. But anyway, people didn't like Valkyrie. That's fine. And then Vision, people liked Vision, but they were still kind of hit and miss, which is kind of unfortunate because Vision, I think, is actually pretty good. I think Vision is one of the more forgotten about heroes in this game. Then, in my opinion, Sinister Motives comes around and they really hit their stride. I love this cycle. Now, I know people still have issues with Spider Ham, but I still think it's a really great cycle overall. And then, generally speaking, Mutant Genesis has been a really good cycle, even though there's things I don't enjoy as much. Next Evolution, I think, is fine. I like some of the heroes in there that are good, and the Age of Apocalypse has been really good. But the point of this being is that as we've gotten further along, there's been more heroes for us to play. There's been more villains for us to play. And that's the whole point of me discussing this, is that we're in a really good state right now. And I know there's people that are just starting their collection, and it kind of stinks because like they don't want to buy a bad hero pack, right? Like you don't want to spend money on a bad hero pack. And it's kind of hard for a lot of people, I think, to recommend good hero packs or bad hero packs to other people, because again, I like Valkyrie. I like the way she works. It's not just a meme. I think she's a lot of fun in the way she plays, but for a lot of people, she's not. She's not enjoyable. And I think you have to go in with the expectation of how she's going to work and how her mechanics are, and you'll be fine. But some people don't even want to deal with that. I get that. That's totally cool. And because we have so many heroes now, it's okay to skip hero packs now and again. Now, most people are completionists, are going to want to finish it eventually, but wait for a good sale, right? Save your money at least. But there are just so many hero options out there that when we get a quote unquote bad hero, like again, I don't like Jubilee at all. I was really hyped for Jubilee. I don't like her as a hero. I don't think she's fun. I don't think she's enjoyable. But it doesn't matter to me anymore that this isn't a super enjoyable hero, because I have 40 some other heroes to play. And that's really cool, right? It's really cool that we're at that point in the game. It's cool if you're coming into the game and you go, hey, I just want to like pick and choose the heroes I want to play. I don't really care about deck building that much. I just want to get ones that are thematically fun. You could do that because there's a lot of options out there right now. Now, I still recommend to people that you should get the entire cycle, because a lot of those cards within the cycle, not all the time, but a lot of time, complement each other and can really expand upon the hero that you want to play. But I get it. A lot of people are into deck building. They don't want to invest that much money yet. Totally get it. But I think with Magneto coming out, my I don't want to say my worry or my fear, because that's a little too strong. But I do think he's going to be really divisive. You're already kind of seeing it on Reddit and Facebook and Twitter and whatnot. You're kind of seeing people come out and be like, I don't know about it. I think the same will be with Agents of Shield too. Agents of Shield, I think, will be fun. I think I'll enjoy it. I'm not regretting the purchase that is going to come for this game. But I understand that it feels like a letdown because people were expecting so much more. And the thing is, like, we'll get to Fantastic Four, we will get to Daredevil, right? There's no doubt about getting to that. And I think the fact that they're taking this like gap time, let's call it for now, is okay for the game. I think having a filler wave is okay, especially if it helps flesh out some of the older heroes. I do enjoy when they give some of the older heroes some love, and if that's what Agents of Shield does and makes Hawkeye, even for me or somebody else, more fun, more enjoyable to play. Same with Black Panther, same with whomever else they may get into. I'm gonna be really excited for that. I'm gonna be really excited for that, and if it just does that, and again, because I don't need every single hero to be a massive hit now. Same with villains too, right? Like I still want more villains. That's what I care about more than anything else right now. But we still have a really good amount that, okay, there's enough villains out there for me now that like, if a box has like 3 solid villains, I'm pretty happy with it, right? If it has less than 3, then it's a little rough. But if it has 3 villains out of the 5, so 60% of them, I'm happy with that. I'm okay with that amount. So anyway, these are just some random thoughts I had. Because again, I know for the next like 2 things, I think it's gonna be really contentious online. And treat everyone with respect and dignity, and everyone has different opinions on this stuff, and they're all valid when they're just opinions, right? If you feel different about this than I do, that's totally cool, totally fine. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about what you think Magneto is going to be like. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Same with Agents of Shield box. I think it's just fun to speculate on this stuff. Again, if your thoughts are completely different than mine, totally respectable and totally fine. I just think it's fun to talk about this stuff and kind of guess what we're going to be getting. Once again, if you haven't followed along in the podcast, make sure you do that. Whatever you listen to your podcast, videos like this one will be there, so you don't have to just watch me talking to a camera, and you can just listen to it and makes your life a little bit easier. And I think it has less ads. So if you want to do that, totally feel free to. I really appreciate it. Make sure you follow me on all social medias like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. I greatly appreciate it. Like I said, let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure to subscribe to wherever you're listening or on YouTube, and I'll see you all next time.